Hello everyone, and welcome to Volume 9, Chapter 6, and I am incredibly scared. If you are not involved in the community in any way, then let me try and explain what has happened over the last few days. So, this episode has been hyped up pretty heavily. I don't think we've ever had an episode of RWBY be hyped up this much. At least not to my memory. And I've been here for every single episode. So, yeah, nerves are pretty high right now. And it's because it's been hyped up by pretty much like what feels like everyone. And the warnings being put in place, like, do not go onto the internet until you have seen the episode, has made myself and the whole community really just incredibly anxious. There's been plenty of speculation as to what could happen. Officially, we know that this episode is being directed by Issa and Carrie. It's Issa's directorial debut, so that's pretty exciting. And the fact that Carrie's also co-directing is definitely a sign of something significant. And the episode is written by Eddie and will be 20 minutes. We rarely get information like this prior to the episode coming out, so that's a sign. As if all the other stuff that we've gotten over the last few days haven't been signs. So yeah, I really don't have anything else to say, so let's do this. Okay, here we are. Volume 9, Chapter 6. Confessions in Cumulonimbus Clouds. Let's go. Oh, we have a warning. Cool. Oh, God. Yep. Can feel the heart rate elevating steadily. Always a good sign. Don't even know how much I will be able to enjoy the intro this time. Stop it. I can just feel it in my chest. Nothing can make me miss that bit, though. Oh, shit! They changed the intro! They've never done that! Holy shit! That's a first! Awesome! Now I'm wondering if there's anything else in there that I missed.
Just hold on.
Oh, yeah. Oh!
Where
got a feeling I'm not going to be talking a lot.
Yeah?
Tree of Time.
Hey, no, wait. Wait! Stop it! Please stop!
That's so gorgeous.
Thought maybe I'd never see you again.
Oh, man.
But I knew if I waited long enough, that you would fall. Just like I did. It's really you, right? When I saw you in the market,
Jaune. It's us. How did you find us?
How are you the Rusted Knight? And when did you get so...
Mature. What happened in Atlas
Oh, shit.
after the rest of us fell?
I guess we've all got a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah. Alright, so yeah, where are we?
She's got 2 relics now?
And with Cinder, the ability to get another. She doesn't know where the beacon relic is.
Well, there's that to be thankful for, at least.
We lost Atlas and the relic.
But we got everyone out safely. Jaune said so.
We risked their home to save the relic, and we failed.
Getting everyone out has to count for something.
What good is saving anybody if Salem just destroys the world anyway?
That's how Ironwood thought. You don't mean that?
Are you done? We need to move before the weather turns, or it's going to take us a lot longer to get to safety. There will be plenty of time to lick your wounds later. Come on.
It's so different having him like this.
So, where are we going again?
My village. I still can't believe you made it all the way from the Crimson Keep on your own.
Not on our own. We had help. Oh. I hope the cat is okay.
What cat?
Oh no.
That cat!
There it is!
Why is it you always find the thing you're looking for in the very last place you look?
This theme from chapter 3.
Jaune!
Oh,
my.
they know
It
each
has
other.
been an indeterminate amount of time, hasn't it? So, how have you been?
Wait, you two know each other?
Stormclouds.
They'd have to. From the story.
Yeah.
Oh, Jaune. I think there's a misunderstanding. The cat can get us all out of here.
We don't have time for this. We've got to get to my village. Don't worry. We don't need a guide.
But your friends wanted to go to the tree.
That's where you're letting them take you?
Well, yeah. That's how Alyx got out. Right?
You didn't tell them anything.
No, that's simply not true. I told them plenty of things. A few anythings and lots of somethings.
Can somebody please make sense?
That tree is death. It absorbs you, takes your memories, and turns you into something else. If you go there, it's going to erase you. They call it Ascension.
Oh.
That's really what it is.
Wait, the tree is what causes Ascension?
That's what got the herbalist. The roots of the tree. Pretty curious that you neglected to mention that.
Ha.
Oh, excellent penmanship. But you are not from here. It won't do that to you guys.
Oh, yeah? Then what happened to Lewis?
Who?
Alyx. Alyx's brother.
That can't be right.
She had a brother?
Person in the mirror.
Why didn't you mention him?
Well, you never asked, silly. It was always Alyx this and Alyx that.
We've been following this story the whole time, and it's not even true.
Let's go. I've got a plan.
A lot of good that's done you after, what? How many years?
Can everyone please stop? This is a lot to take in.
Huh. Looks like we're stuck at a crossroads then.
No!
Oh, shit.
Damn it. Welcome to a Punderstorm. A weather pattern that creates a physical manifestation of a mental or emotional problem. So, we appear to be at a metaphorical and literal crossroads.
Ah.
How perfectly, stupidly ever after it. This place really is the pits.
Oh.
The only way out is to resolve the problem or wait until the storm passes. Let's just get moving.
Okay, I asked for that. Where's Yang?
And Blake?
Mm-hmm.
Must have had something bigger to work out.
Huh? Blake! Yay! What do we do? We need to get to that platform.
But how do we take the next step?
Whoa, cool transition.
You know this would go quicker if you make up your minds.
I just don't get how the story is both real and not.
It all happened.
I saw that.
Just not the way Alyx said when she wrote it.
That's just straight out the music from...
What? She just lied?
You have no idea. I waited for you to fall. For years. But somebody else showed up first.
Look at
It was
this.
And her brother, Lewis. 2 siblings from Remnant. I told them I was from there too. I was waiting for my friends. Once I started helping them, it didn't take long for me to figure out I was in her story. I was the rusted knight. But things weren't always the same as the book.
Hmm.
Like Alyx. She wasn't just a little petulant or inconsiderate. She was selfish. Cruel. Like this whole world was simply make-believe and the rules didn't apply to her.
Hmm.
Lewis was the kind one. The clever one. We went places she didn't mention in the story. Like the herbalist. Something changed there. Whatever he said to her, she wasn't the same after that. She lost all trust in us. Started accusing us of things. The more I tried to get the story back on track, the more she distrusted me. Was it my fault? Did I change the story? I couldn't even be the make-believe hero. I didn't have time to make it right. The rusted knight drank the poison in her stead. She said she wouldn't let anyone get in the way of her leaving. That she'd do whatever it takes. And then she was gone. So, not exactly my favorite story anymore.
I'm so sorry.
Wait, why don't you trust the cat then?
The cat's role in the Ever After. I figured it out later when the cat came back for me once Alyx left. When people lose their way here, the cat convinces them somehow.
Yep.
Either to keep performing their role or to go to the tree and get a new one. The cat calls it healing, but it's manipulation. The cat was never helping Alyx or you. Their purpose here is to feed the the tree to keep the cycle going.
How can you be sure?
Because the cat took Alyx and Lewis there. But only one of them made it back to our world.
You alright? I'll feel a lot better when we're together on that platform. Is it a password or something? Together!
There you go.
Platform! No luck? I'm
Think
sure you'll
about it.
figure it out, though. You're good at that. You think so?
Well, yeah. You've got a really good brain. Okay, that did something. I talked about you, so...
Mm-hmm.
You have cat ears! I think your cat ears are cute. Nailed it! Even though I don't know what it is yet.
Maybe it's saying things we never said to each other. I think you're an extraordinary person. You're always the first to lighten a situation. You act bravely when you're afraid. You do what you say.
Dude.
Try to keep up.
I like that you've never been intimidated by me. Even when you didn't like me all that much.
I was a little wary of people in general.
But you never gave up on them, even when they hurt you. You never give up.
It's
No one
happening,
matters.
dude. I cannot believe it.
Let's make this quicker. Any
Yeah.
big truths we haven't dropped on each other yet?
Oh, cool. Gotta say it.
Just think of something that didn't say it.
Yep.
That can't be what this is about.
Yep. It is.
It's like a cliff. And if I do it, I'm just going to fall.
I think we're already falling. Just say it, Yang.
I think I love you.
I love you too.
And they're there. Oh, cool. That's good. Dude. I cannot believe it. It's finally fucking
In
happened.
the first place I looked, rather than the last.
Jaune told us.
Oh, I thought there was more to the story. You're accusing me of something. Same page now.
You're the one who gives afterins to the tree. Why haven't you been telling us the truth?
When afterins get all higgledy-piggledy, I help them return to the ever after, yes. But you're not afterins. I'm not taking you there to ascend. I'm taking you there because you all have such delightful information for me.
You pretended like you'd never heard of the story when you met us. But Jaune had already told you.
I think old Jaune's maybe a few sandberries short of a picnic these days, wouldn't you say?
What happened when you took Alyx and Lewis to the tree?
I don't know. She had told me she'd take me with her through the door to Remnant, but she tricked me. Just like all of you. You only want to use me in the same way I've only seen others as sources for knowledge and entertainment. Well, at least now I know what not to do.
We just want to get home.
Thank you for this lesson, Ruby, Rose, Huntress. I'll be on my way now. Stay with your friend.
Jeez. Yep.
Did we miss anything?
Feels like I've been waiting forever for that.
Yeah.
Come on.
That is all of us. Every single one of us. Hey. I know this shot.
Hey,
Oh.
there's something I've been holding
This
on to
music.
for you.
Oh.
It was the first thing I saw when I was falling. Years later, when I finally found it,
Oh, she's
I
not
caught
gonna.
back up to the top of my phone. Ruby?
Interesting.
Hey.
Thank you, Jaune.
Don't mention it.
Jaune, what did happen to Lewis?
I think Alyx traded him to the tree in order to leave. And then she wrote him out of the story. Good night, everyone.
Yep. Hey, we get this. Awesome. Oh, look at that. Awesome. Okay. What do I even say? That is incredibly surreal. I almost don't believe it, you know? God, we've been waiting for so long. So long. I'm just really, really happy. There's no other way to put it, and there's no way I could try to explain the more complex emotions, but it's just happy. I'm just happy. I'm barely registering the rest of the episode, which is a shame because there's so much stuff. So besides the B stuff, what did we have? We had a lot, well, big ol' intro drop on Alyx and her adventure in the Ever After, which, of course, as we just learned, she wasn't alone. She was with her brother, Lewis. And Alyx was not exactly the best person. Okay, yeah, so that whole first scene with the Tree of Time. What was up with that? Like, what happened there? I'll have to watch it again. I think I'll have to rewatch pretty much everything, as per usual. Got some more of the Curious Cats theme, which is great. I was starting to think that I was wrong, and It was just going to be in chapter 3. But no, we got it at least twice here, and it sounded some of the music in the place whose name I've forgotten. The place with all the doors and all that stuff. Some of the music in there definitely sounded similar to the Cats theme as well. A lot of the similar instruments. So I'm gonna have fun listening to the music in this one. Dude, I'm just so happy. I really want to go and see what reactions are to this, so I'm probably going to cut this short, and I'll see you in the discussion section. It is time for the discussion section. Let's go. Discussion section. Chapter 6. We have some stuff to talk about. As per usual, we will be starting with music. Firstly, regarding the music from the very first scene, and also music from the fairy tale flashback scene that we get later on, and also in the Punderstorm as well, and a bunch of scenes from earlier episodes. There does seem to be a particular kind of sound or musical palette. You can call it a theme, sort of, maybe. I don't know. But there definitely seems to be a particular sound that's, I guess, representative of the Ever After. And what I mean by a particular sound is, well, I just kind of said it, musical palette, which, imagine a painter. They have all their colors on their palette that makes up the piece of art. You can sort of imagine music in a similar way, where instead of different colors of paint, it's different instruments and stuff like that, and they can all come together to be the elements of a particular piece of music. It can be a very common thing for character themes and location themes and all that stuff from everything that you can think of. In RWBY in particular, there's a bunch of examples. You can think of Blake with the piano. You can think of Maria with her thing that I've forgotten the name of. But go listen to Maria's theme a bunch and you'll pick out that particular sound. There's also Sun with his, oh god, what is it? It's not a banjo, is it? I don't think it's a banjo. Or it could be. I don't know. I'm dumb. But you probably get what I mean. And the point is, I'm pretty sure the Ever After has a particular sound. As I mentioned, we hear it a bit throughout this episode, and we've heard it a bunch in previous episodes. There's that particular instrument in there that I still don't know what it is, but it's the same one that we hear in the Cats theme, in the Curious Cats theme. So yeah, there's that, I guess, obvious connection. Okay, moving on from that rambling mess, we had a reference to Inside, the OP song. It's a very small reference and very easy to miss, but it is definitely there. We got the Cats theme again, which I'm very, very happy about. As I mentioned, I was kind of worried that I had jumped the gun and sort of convinced myself that we had a theme for the cat when maybe we actually didn't. But no, we do. And I'm very, very happy about that because it's such a great little theme. And it's been stuck in my head ever since episode 3. And I'm just very glad that it's a recurring thing. The music that we hear in the scene right before we jump into the Punderstorm, that whole confrontation with the cat. It sounds very similar to the very first cue of this volume, the whole, first person perspective with RWBY and going through the events of the Volume 8 finale. But it sounds very similar to that. I don't know if it's intentional or not, or it's just the same composer, and so we have a similar vibe. But it was just something I noticed, so. And something that I'm sure most people probably picked up on, but we got a nice little callback to the very end of Volume 8 with Atlas falling as Weiss is looking into the reflection thing in the Punderstorm, and she sees Atlas falling. There's a nice little callback. It wasn't a new variation of that idea. It was literally just that same score, but it's just been placed into this episode, so cool. Alright, let's move on to some of the small little story stuff. But wait, you ask, what about that other piece of music that we hear in this episode? We'll get there. Very soon, trust me. First things first, for the first time ever in RWBY, the intro changed. That was a shock. Like, more shocking than it probably should be. Because, again, it's never happened before. It's always sort of felt like that the intro has been this untouchable thing. You don't mess with that after the first one, you know? It's really cool. I am intrigued by the design of the time tree of time, whatever you want to call it. It's just a very interesting design, especially the numbers that are surrounding the tree. In Roman numerals, it's just very interesting. I've got nothing else to say on it. I just looked at it and it was like, that's neat. So an interesting sound thing. As that sound that we hear as we see Alyx and Lewis falling sounds almost exactly the same as the sound that we hear when Ozpin and Oscar switch. Like when they switch control over the body. It's that exact same sound. And I'll demonstrate that here.
Fall. Just like I did.
So yeah, that's an interesting choice because I assume, well, I'm assuming, I don't know, I'm not a sound designer, so I don't know how it exactly works, but I would assume that they didn't recreate that sound and arrive at a similar sound coincidentally. It sounds so similar that I would assume that they just sort of reuse that sound. So why? Like, it seems like a very particular sound to place in that shot. So what could it mean, if it means anything? Can someone please get Weiss Daddy Issues Schnee a glass of cold water? Please? Someone? Anyone? I mean, calm down, please. Jeez. And final little thing that I just thought of while watching the end of the episode. Assuming that this is like Team RWBY going to sleep here. This is the first time that they have slept since Volume 7. Specifically, Volume 7, Chapter 7. Because Chapter 8 onwards to now, where we are, is only, a few days. A very short amount of time. And they have not had the chance to sleep at all throughout that whole thing. So Yeah. Alright, what do I talk about next? Do I go right to the big thing? Or do I build that up a bit? Actually, you know what? No, screw it. We'll talk about it right now. Okay, so we all know what this is about. There's probably not a whole lot of stuff that I can talk about that a lot of other people haven't already talked about. So I will attempt to just kind of summarize thoughts. So, Bumblebee has finally happened. Hell yeah. Talk about burning the candle. A very slow burning candle. So, this whole scene is incredible. It is easily my favorite scene of the volume so far, and easily one of my favorite scenes in the entire show. Every little piece of this scene, I think, is perfect. I love the writing. All of the dialogue is just... ugh. I love the way it was directed. I love all the animation. I love the music. I love all the other parts of production that obviously went into this. The art, the VisPost team doing incredible work with the lighting and everything. The way it was edited. Aaron and Barbara's performances. Like, every tiny little thing that went into this scene was perfection. And I am very, very, very happy. It has been a very long time coming, obviously. And since this episode is aired, we now know, officially confirmed, that this is something that has been the plan since the beginning. And that is great. It is so nice to have that, like, confirmed. So, again, all the dialogue is so great in this. All the things they say to each other. And I love that it's happening here in this place that is, you know, forcing them to say these things, to solve their problem. And, again, I don't think I can say things in a way that other people haven't already. So I can only talk about my own feelings on it. And boy, some feelings they are. So, if I can be kind of real for a minute, this scene and watching it, especially in the rewatches, has had a very big effect on me personally. I cannot properly explain why or how I have been I don't know how obvious it is, but I've been very, very emotional thinking about it over the last few days. It's a kind of a tough thing to talk about, and I'm probably rambling a bit, but I'm going to keep going. But watching it again and again, and just thinking about it, has made me feel feelings that I'm pretty sure I've never felt before, and that has been an interesting experience. It has been a very emotional experience for me because it's confusing and joyous and wonderful, and, as I said, impossible to put into words. Yeah, it is easily the most emotional I've been with the show, and I'm honestly kind of surprised by that. Like, I've always supported the relationship, and I've never been like a big shipping person, but you know, I've always been a fan of it, and I've always wanted to see it happen, but it was never a thing that I'm like super duper into, you know. But seeing it happen finally, and the way it was done, and everything about it, it's truly has changed something in me, I think, and really making me just feel things. Like, I've been crying about it for a number of days now, like pretty much every single time that I think about it or watch it, and I don't know how obvious it is, but I'm, you know, fighting back tears right now. So this whole section has probably been a bit of a mess to listen to, because I'm just rambling about something that I don't even know how to explain. So, but I don't know. I guess the point is that this scene has done something so incredibly well that it has changed something about me quite significantly, and I still don't know exactly what that means and what will it mean for me going forward, but yeah. Oh god, I forgot to talk about the music. Okay. So yeah, so the music, we have a new song, obviously, named Worthy, and it is a beautiful song, confirmed by Casey, of course, to be Bumblebee Part 2, so that's fun. And I love that Casey has gotten the chance to do this particular song and this moment. You know, she's been the voices of these characters since the beginning, you know, almost as long as, you know, Aaron and Barbara have. So I'm just so happy for Casey that she has gotten the opportunity to do this moment and be a voice in that scene as well. So it's just beautiful and wonderful, and I cannot say enough things about it. And boy, seeing the reactions from everyone has been so wonderful. Like, you know, talk about, you know, what the scene has done to me. Like, I cannot imagine what it must feel like for a lot of other people out there who have been more invested into this than I have. And for the people who, you know, seeing something like this kind of relationship happen, and how much that means to lots of other particular people, is so great, and that makes me so happy for those people. Like, I'm just like over the moon for them. And again, I'm probably rambling and not making a whole lot of sense, because this is just this is pure, just, I don't know, emotion trying to express pure emotion, into words, which it just doesn't. I don't do that good, so I don't know how well I'll be able to edit all this down into something that is coherent, but I'll try it. Probably won't work though. Speaking of reactions from our characters, from our other characters. Oh boy, Jaune is quite literally all of us in that moment. He's absolutely right. We've been waiting so long. Although in his case, he's been waiting even longer than any of us have, because he's had decades to wait for this shit. And of course, Weiss, the prime bee shipper in world, is very happy. So that's good. And unfortunately, RWBY's not in the best space to I guess, react and to it positively, or maybe that's not the right word, but I'm hoping that when RWBY can come out of the issues that she's facing, she can appreciate this whole thing and actually have a nice moment with them. Okay, is that everything I need to mention about this scene? I think it is. There's probably a whole lot more that I could go into, especially regarding the actual scene itself and less, how it makes me feel. Like, all of the animation, my goodness, it's all so good. I love that the collection of animators that worked on this scene refer to themselves as the B team. That's very, very cute. And they did such a good job. My God. And if you're watching this and you don't know who the animators were on this scene, well, I am about to tell you. Hopefully I do not mispronounce any of their names. So, the B team consists of Melanie Stone, Jory Shields, Adele Krauss, Hannah Novotny, Vince Capilouti, and Clara Vasquez. So, they did an amazing job. You should all go and give them all the love and praise possible. And you should also send that praise to other parts of the production as well, because they never get the amount of praise that they deserve, from art to Viz Post, especially Viz Post. They are absolute heroes, because, especially in this scene, God, the lighting. Alright, am I done for this rambling section yet? I think I'm finally done. God, it's going to be a nightmare to edit that. Okay, so talk about some of the other stuff that happens in this episode. Yes, other stuff happens in this episode. Right, so let's talk about Jaune. So firstly, his whole interaction with the Tree of Time and his picking of the clockwork orange, as people are calling it, which is funny, or you can call them time limes, which is another great name. And it's his interaction with that actually has sent him back in time. So he did land around the same time as everyone else did. He landed last, because as we see, as time is reversing, there's that shot where we actually see all the others falling, or, in reverse. So that's a nice thing to see. Well, I would say it's a nice thing to see, but you know what I mean. And so he was here for a very long time on his own, because as we see, he is already old by the time Alyx and Lewis arrive. He says it, he waited for years before someone else showed up. I'll probably save talking about his time with Alyx and Lewis until we actually get to that section, so we'll just move on to... What else do I have here? I've got Jaune's village, which just seems to be one little house. But beyond that, I am very curious because he mentions that he has a plan. So based on all the other stuff that happens in this episode, I doubt that his plan has anything to do with going to the tree. So what is it? What is his plan? Is it a plan to go home? And if so, how? I assume that's something that we'll be delving into in the next episode, maybe. And boy, oh boy, Jaune's guilt is a thing. The way that he must feel about himself is so incredibly depressing to think about. He has one of the saddest lines in the volume so far, which was, I couldn't even be the make-believe hero. And damn, dude, that is an oof. And, in the Punderstorm, we see his, I guess, reflections of his guilt, because we see a reflection of Penny and then reflections of his younger self. And now something about him that I don't really want to question, but we sort of have to, is he telling the whole truth? The cat does have a line of something along the lines of, he's probably not thinking straight because he's been here alone for so long. He's gone through this experience that maybe he isn't thinking straight, So, is there something that he isn't saying? Now, obviously, I don't want him to be, not telling the whole truth and stuff, but I think it's something that we should consider. So, and then speaking of things that I don't want to think about, this episode sets up how when Alyx and Lewis went to the tree, one of them went home, the other one didn't, and was absorbed by the tree. So, and, Jaune says something, right at the end about how Alyx, sacrificed Lewis to the tree in order to go home. So that doesn't make me feel great, because I immediately jump to, well, is he gonna, make that same sacrifice in order to make sure that Team RWBY gets back to Remnant? And I am very scared of that happening, because I do not want that to happen at all. I'm hoping that is something that is too obvious to happen. So, yeah, I'm a bit scared going forward. Okay, so last episode, we learned about Ascension and all that stuff, and in this episode, we sort of learn the truth about it. So, questions that I had from last episode, like, who or what is controlling the whole thing? That seems to have an answer now. It's the tree. The tree is the one behind it all. The curious cat do be shady AF. Jaune says that the cat's purpose is to feed the tree, to keep the cycle going, which does line up with what we've seen so far. So, And speaking of the cat, they say that they wanted to go to Remnant with Alyx, but Alyx tricked them. So that's something to think about. Although, obviously, with this episode, we have to take everything that the cat says with a big old grain of salt. But the moment where the cat says that is interesting, because the cat loses all the color or all the brightness in its pattern, diamond pattern, and there's a sound effect that comes with that. So I'm wondering if that means anything, if that's a cue that hey, maybe the cat is being truthful in this moment. For this brief little moment, the cat is actually being completely honest. And now that sort of that bridge has been burned between the cat and the rest of them, what is the cat gonna do now? I'm assuming that we will see the cat again, based on how prominent it is to this whole story. But I'm just curious, like, what role will the cat have now? Because it's no longer going to be guiding them places. So, what the cat doing? And obviously, learning all this stuff about Ascension here has sort of cast shade on everything that we learned about it in last episode. So, cool. And now let's talk about the Punderstorm, which is a great name. I think it's a portmanteau of pun, ponder, and storm, which is a very clever name. So, as Jaune says, the Punderstorm is a physical manifestation of a mental or emotional problem, a literal and metaphorical crossroads. And the only way out is to either solve the problem or you wait until the storm passes. So with that in mind, who solved their problems and who didn't? Blake and Yang did, obviously. And RWBY, Weiss, and Jaune didn't, I think. I'm pretty sure we see reflections of what their, emotional problem is. With Jaune, as I mentioned earlier, we have those reflections of Penny and his younger self, so he's got some problems there to work out. Weiss sees Atlas falling, which we've addressed that a couple times now in the volume, so she's got that to figure out. And RWBY doesn't see what I suppose her problem is, but we do see it, and that is the reflection of Summer. So, excited to see where that goes. Right, so we get Jaune telling us all about Alyx and Lewis and all the little things that aren't quite as how they are portrayed in the book. So, Alyx and Lewis end up in the Ever After somehow. Very curious as to how, because as we saw last volume, it's a pretty complicated process in order to end up there. So what the hell did Alyx and Lewis do to get there in the first place? The big thing here is obviously that Alyx is not who the book portrays her as. She's selfish, inconsiderate, and cruel. And Lewis was the nice one and the clever one. And obviously Lewis is someone who is not mentioned in the book at all. So they went places that were not mentioned in the story, like the herbalist, and it was after meeting with the herbalist that Alyx changed. She became distrustful of Jaune and Lewis and I guess everything. And according to Jaune anyway, she seemed very, very intent on leaving and getting back to Remnant, no matter what. And as we learn, allegedly, that would include sacrificing her own brother. The shot where that line comes from, the very final shot of that sequence is very interesting because as it fades out, the cat's eyes fade in just briefly, just briefly enough for you to just be able to catch it. So, interesting. Jaune then says that the cat took both Alyx and Lewis to the tree, but only Alyx made it back to Remnant. And obviously, as we heard earlier, well, not at this point in the episode, but as I talked about earlier, the cat says that Alyx tricked them as well. So Lewis was taken by the tree and, I guess, repurposed and ascended, but into who? Or are we being baited right now? We are being told that Alyx was the one who went back to Remnant, and Lewis was the one who was gobbled up by the tree. But we do not actually know that. And people, including myself, are pretty suspicious about that whole thing, because we have spent this volume, learning about all the things about this world and about the book that are just not true and lies. So why would that change here? So what if it was actually the opposite, and Lewis is the one that went back to Remnant, and Alyx was the one that got the short end of the stick? Well, people have pointed out that Lewis is carrying a book in the sort of flashback sequence, and of course, their names, Alyx and Lewis. Alyx, obviously, based off of Alice, from Alice in Wonderland. Lewis seems to be based on Lewis Carroll, the author of Lewis in Wonderland. The author, the one who wrote the book. So, I do believe that we have a few more twists in store in regards to this whole fairy tale. And finally, let's talk about Crescent Rose. So, Jaune has been holding on to Crescent Rose for a while, it seems. Although he says that it took him years to find it. And the line fades off because of the stuff that's happening, but he says that, years later, when I finally found it, I knew I'd caught back up to the time, and that's sort of where it cuts off. So we don't exactly know what he says. Is he saying that once he found Crescent Rose, he knows that he's caught up to, the present time, or the relatively recent present? And then we have RWBY's reaction to seeing Crescent Rose, which is very interesting because all that weird stuff happens. There's that sound that we hear. But the thing that caught my eye, obviously, is that visual effect that we see on the edges of the screen. Looking at it, it does kind of look like the roots of a tree. So, is that maybe like the tree calling to RWBY? Because as we learned last episode, the Ever After, as we now know, the tree calls to individuals when it's time for them to be, repurposed and ascended. So is that happening to RWBY because of, all the stuff that she's going through? Which then leads to, what is RWBY thinking? When she looks down and she sees Crescent Rose and all that stuff happens, what is she thinking? Obviously, based on her reaction to it all, it seems like she doesn't want it. She seems to reject that whole thing, which is similar to what happened to Yang in Volume 4 when she was presented with her new arm and she rejected it and she wasn't ready for it. It's a bit of a similar presentation because here's this thing that's in a box and it's been presented to you by this, middle-aged blonde dude. So, yeah, is RWBY actually considering a new identity? Has she actually put thought into everything that's been said to her over the last few episodes about not being Ruby Rose anymore, and she's actually looking at Crescent Rose, this physical embodiment of who Ruby Rose is, and saying, no, I don't want to be that anymore? It's certainly a question. And that is all I have to talk about for this episode. Okay, so this discussion section has been a bit all over the place, I think. Plenty of rambling. I'm going to have a good time editing this one down. But yeah, lots of stuff happened this episode. One very big, significant thing, obviously, that has had a very, very big effect on me. Yeah, I'm still recovering, I guess, from that whole thing. But yeah, that will do it for me for this episode, Chapter 6, Confessions Within Cumulonimbus Clouds. Wonderful episode, as per usual. And I am very, very excited for the next one. And I cannot wait. Thank you very much for watching. Check out my other stuff if you haven't already. And see ya.